Well, today we're here for a nice little cup of coffee for a nice coffee chat. My name is Jim Sink. I'm the Director of Biological Products and Product Marketing for Indigo. Corey, want you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so Corey Nickel, I work on the commercial team focused on biological licensing and do a lot of tech support with new products as well.
Welcome, Corey. And one thing about it, every year is, we always say is a busy year. This year, a little bit more busier than normal, I would say, would you not? Especially with the new introduction of a new bionematicide, Z15.
Yeah, a lot goes into that introduction. Not only getting to know the product, but also training everybody up to go out and represent as well. So yeah, it's been a busy year.
And you can imagine, Indigo's not afraid of taking on tough challenges. And when it comes to nematodes, so especially soybean cyst nematodes, one of the toughest ones out there. You want to give us a little background about just how devastating this pest can be?
Yeah, so it's the leading detractor of yield, or has the biggest economic impact as far as soybean pests and diseases go. And so it's been around since the 50s in the US, and just continues to get more and more robust as it spreads around the country. But the tag out there's $1.5 billion worth of yield loss a year. So it's taken a lot out of the old soybean numbers every year, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those pests that we kind of call the silent yield killer. And it's one of those things you really don't. Sometimes you don't see the damage until it's too late. You've already lost the yield. But again, as I said earlier, Indigo, we're not afraid to take it on the challenges. But yet, Z15 as our first step in a nematicide product, a bionematicide in the U.S. And what makes this product so special?
Well, I'd say a couple of things that really drive its kind of uniqueness, and one being the timing of it. We've been relying on genetic resistance in the soybean plants themselves for the last 30-40 years to combat the problem, but the cyst nematodes have adapted and become resistant to that genetic resistance. And so we're hitting this right at the perfect time as far as kind of stepping in to help with some rescue techniques and programs to be able to extend maybe a new form of resistance in terms of that genetics. But also the safety factor. Some of the other products that have been tried, some of the chemical nematicides, they're pretty nasty. And in fact, some of them have come on the market and been taken off. Not some things that you can apply at the farm. Let's just say that much. So between safety, timing, and having a living worker down there helping to protect against cysts, it's a really cool product.
Well, I know not too long ago, you and I were together with the entire team of the technical service managers and the sales force names, getting ready for the launch and doing the training. And during that time, we actually went out to the field. And I was rather excited. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the thing with cysts is they're so microscopic. You don't see them until they've actually that female has actually gotten into the root and has an egg sac that that's why they call it a cyst, but it just kind of explodes out of the root, and that little cyst sac is it's full of eggs. So visibly we've been able to see differences all season long. And then, the exciting part right now is just matching that back up to yield. Now, in some areas where conditions have been super optimal, maybe, we may not see that yield difference, even though we saw differences in cyst pressure on those roots earlier in the season. But where conditions have been drier and plants have been stressed more, those yield numbers are going to probably back us up and support us really, really nice based off those early season observations.
Yeah, some of those early season observations included pulling plants from the field and actually stripping the leaves off. And one thing I thought was amazing is that we were getting 48 to 72% increase in seed pod formation. What kind of, I know it's early season, we don't have the final field yield data yet, What does that tell us when we're seeing that much difference in seed pod formation?
Yeah, so when you've got a difference like that, obviously we're tolerating a stress better. You know, the cool thing about the Z15 bionematicide is it's got some biostimulant properties to it as well. And so even though we're protecting that plant against the nematodes, we've also put a little extra drive into that plant to, you know, put down bigger roots. And you know, with that, we're going to tolerate some more of that early season drought stress a little better. And obviously, if that, you know, if that plant's not starving for water, it's gonna thrive and continue to, you know, uh, flourish when it comes to those different stages of development. And certainly, flowering and pod set and development is those are the big ones going into the yield. So
Yeah, and as we now are getting to that point where we do have some fields in which we've had Z15 out on soybeans, which now get some yield data back. One recent report came from Nebraska, I believe it was, and it was in a comparison to the number one synthetic nematicide, Olivo. And the results that I saw, we were standing toe to toe. I think it was 8.3 bushels for ours, 8.4 for theirs. So there was no drawback. There was no it works almost as well. It was standing toe to toe, giving you every bit of the performance that you expect from a synthetic. What do you think about that? Because that to me is rather exciting. Now we're seeing performance of a biological equaling the performance of some of the top synthetics.
yeah, no, I mean it's almost a dream come true when we can reach that point. You know, we're early on in this biotic adventure, I'll call it, you know, with one biofungicide out and now the bionematicide. But yeah, very very encouraging to see that. And then when you start thinking about the economics of it, you know, we're probably half the price of some of the chemistries that are being used out there today that are popular. So it's going to create a lot of cool opportunities both in the farmer's pocket, but also, you know, for a seed company, maybe doesn't want to force that down everyone's throat at $12 to $15 a seed unit. Now you've got this nice, easy to apply at planting product that for growers that are concerned, they can you know they can take advantage of that product and not necessarily have it forced down their throat, but you know, they've got some economical options now. We'll just say that much.
Yeah, and as you said, give farmers an option and give dealers an option and give another product out there, a good solid product for farmers to be able to use. You know, as we've talked about the fact that we are continuing, we did biofungicide, now the biomaticide. Where do you see us going? I mean, now with the information we're getting, how much excitement do you think we're going to be seeing in the field with the data that's coming out? What do you think the retailers and farmers are going to say?
Yeah, you know, we're still in the proving grounds yet, right? So I mean, we've got a, you know, another month or two of that to, you know, to really go aggressive after it. But there's some really cool opportunities when we think about now displacing a product versus just supplementing a product. And so, you know, future wise, you know, that even in the disease world, there's some of the chemistries that have been around a while that aren't necessarily controlling some of these pathogens anymore because we've overused them. You know, they just kind of become standard. And you know, pests and cysts and bugs, I mean, everything evolves and develops to figure out how to stay alive. And so I really think that you know, this is tip of the iceberg for the biotic side, and being able to come in and have a nice alternative to chemistry and not necessarily have to be a supplement anymore.
Corey, we talked a lot about performance. We talked about some of the things we've seen in the field. But one of the key questions, a couple of questions that keep coming up, especially from our customers, our retailers, and from farmers, is the question with Z15. Do we harm beneficial nematodes? And do we negatively impact, or do we have, you know, a consequence on the soil health? How would you answer that?
So I would say first and foremost that, you know, we've developed it with, with specific nematode targets in mind. So, what we've got on our label is definitely what, what we're taking action on. When it comes to the beneficial nematodes, that's a whole nother world of, very, very different kind of nematodes that, whether their size, whether their physiology, and the purposes they serve the soil. I guess I like to think about it as, the nematodes don't move very far in the soil. They're pretty well placed, in the same spot. They're born, hatch, and they don't go a long ways in their life. So really, with us, with Z15, just growing along the outside of the root, we're not impacting that whole soil structure in a field. We're just impacting that immediate root zone, and you're talking, probably less than 20% of the area out there is where our roots are going to be combating nematodes at. So I guess I don't see it being a problem. Now, proving out that you're not impacting a beneficial, that could be tough. But along those lines, we're strictly just right around that plant zone is where we're making impacts, and it's not we're not destroying the whole field.
Corey, one thing, with customers, it's always important to see it through their eyes. I know our sales team has gone out and been able to sell successfully Z15. But then I've now heard that some of those customers, even with the limited yield data that we've had collected thus far, have now going back and increasing their orders. Can you give me some ideas of who those customers are and maybe why they're doing this?
Yeah, so they placed initial orders just based on our preliminary data that we fed them, from our 2022, 2021 development work. They were excited about the prospect, and you'll want to get behind a program like that. And then what we've seen recently is with Streamline, especially, they've come back in and increased that order. And so they're getting their own internal data results in, that at this point we're just kind of sharing some of the early season wins. But when we start seeing some of these 6, 7, 8, 9 bushel wins, that they really start to get even more confident about the product, that there's something there, and that they want to put their name behind it. So
Yeah, just put in context, you're a farmer and you're seeing 7, 8, 9 bushel per acre increases. What does that mean in your pocketbook?
yeah, so you're in the upwards of $100 to $120 an acre, less the cost of the treatment. So I mean, it's really that $100 ROI is not too far out of line in some of those situations. So obviously, the prices move around, but that number of increase, especially in soybeans, that's a big number. That's a big number that catches a lot of eyes. A lot of times is these 1, 2 bushel swings, and sometimes that's hard to detect. But when you're pulling 7, 8s, and 9s, those get felt in the pocketbook. So it's a good feel.
And again, that's the building again, the continued excitement about Z15. And as you said, this is not the only product we have coming down the line with additional nematicide products. We launched one in Brazil recently, and we'll have more to come for the U.S. If you look in your crystal ball and look ahead, how do you see Indigo positioned as to really address a lot of the most important needs a farmer has and what the retailers want to provide customers? You think our portfolio is getting to that point of really giving them a lot of the options that they need to have?
Yeah, when you think about some of these pests and on the biotic side, these tend to be more prevalent year to year versus some of the water and heat different stresses that we see from season to season. And so, it's really a launch board of confidence for them to get behind our entire product line. For those that haven't necessarily bought into water use efficiency, or maybe haven't seen consistent enough gains year over year, when you start talking on the biotic side, it's those are those seem to be there every year, and severity can change with the weather, but these things are going to have a real chance to show consistency, and that's number one in these retailers' minds, because they want to place a product and they want to come back and place it again next year. So we're addressing the needs.
Well, I don't know about you, but I've only been with the company for a little over a year now, but I'm immensely excited. What I'm seeing, what we have today, what we have coming down the pike, in the pipeline, the fact that we're addressing some of the most important needs for a farmer, really important ones, not only just addressing the problem, but actually giving them a return on their investment. And we just keep building on that. So I think, again, from a company wide, all of us should be extremely excited with what we're doing in biology, the biological products, and continued going down the road. But Corey, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been great. Nice to have a cup of coffee. It just
You bet.
some of the exciting products and activities what we're seeing out in the field.